Hello and welcome back to 27Crows Radio. Today I have an exciting guest, the beautiful and smart co-host of Red Eyes TV and the hostess of Radio 314, Lana Lokteff. For years now, she's fought in the culture war against rabid lefties, feminists, neocons, and all those who oppose the preservation of the West and the white race. She joins me today to have a discussion about her journey with Red Eyes TV and how women can potentially course correct in the future after decades of being manipulated by the media, the internationalists, and Hollywood propaganda. Thank you for joining me, Lana.
Oh, thank you. You know I adore you, Bree.
I adore you right back. I'm so glad we finally got the chance to do this because I tried to schedule a couple other times and we couldn't get it to happen, so I'm glad we could finally
It only
make
took
it happen.
a year or something.
It was worth it. It was worth it. I've always been so interested in how you got started with Radio 314 and the evolution of Red Eyes, so how did that come about?
Well, Radio 314 was all because of Henrik. It's all his doing. You know. I didn't think about doing a radio show or doing any of that, but when we met and I had come up to Sweden, I was already a Red Eyes fan, and I was helping him out in different ways behind the scenes and writing texts, and just started Red Eyes TV way back then when we were going out and filming and asking people questions. I was helping him produce that and put that together. But then he said, "Hey, do you want to have your own radio show?" And it's like, I don't know, maybe. and then it happened, you know. So then started that. And we both kind of have gone on a truth-seeking journey together, you know, from conspiracy to health to secret societies. I mean, you name it, any kind of alternative topic, we basically covered. I mean, Henrik was kind of like the rock star in the conspiracy circuit. I don't know if people know.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was like the European version of Coast to Coast, which is very big in America. You know, and he had basically all the biggest, you know, authors and filmmakers and everything in the alternative media circuit of alternative topics, things you don't hear in the mainstream. And part of that is when you go on your truth-seeking journey, whether it's conspiracy or you're decoding propaganda, whatever, you start to notice patterns. So you know, we started noticing patterns. You know, Henrik was actually on board. People don't know this, but he actually knew when I first met him. He had shown me a lot of revisionist material, which was pretty bold. You know, we just got together. He was like showing me 1/3 of the Holocaust. You know, it was like he took a chance, but you know, it wowed me. You know, when I saw that. So I mean, he knew about a lot of these things before, but he wasn't public about a lot of those things. And it wasn't really until 2013, 2014 when we started really getting into multiculturalism. Talking about race, talking about leftism, talking about the JQ, those things openly, because we had been in Europe for a long time. Then we came to America and we realized, geez, you know, after I had been gone for many years, I was in Australia and Fiji and Sweden, came back, I didn't realize how race obsessed everything was, and anti-white everything was. And so that was a huge pattern that we noticed, and we had to start talking about it, because when you are a truth seeker, you have to go there. And we took a big risk because we had members who let's be frank, a lot of the conspiracy people are really quite left. You know, right. So once we went into this, there were people that were peeing their pants. They couldn't believe, like, oh my God, you're a white supremacist bastard. I'm unsecure. And then there was a small faction that was like, yes, finally you're talking about this, you know. And then there was other people that have come back 1 year later, 2 years later. You were right. I was wrong. I was hysterical, you know, and have become members again. So yeah, it's all just been part of our journey, and now here we are. And once you get into these topics, I mean, where do you go from here? These are such huge, massive, important topics, you know?
I kind of had a similar journey in that I was living overseas, and I came back over here and realized very quickly, wow, it really is race obsessed. And I thought that was just in Europe, because I saw the political correctness over there. But when I came back here, I was like, wow, it's almost just as bad, but in different ways, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
I think you're like a Renaissance woman in my eyes, given that you have a radio show, you have a live show that you do on weekends, you're a loving wife and mother. How do you balance all of that?
Well, you know, it's really tough. I mean, it's already hard just raising a family and taking care of the house, and if you want to do it right and be fashy, you know. And I'm kind of a perfectionist. Like I'm kind of a clean freak, and I like to have things orderly and stuff, but come the kids, you know, some of that just has to go. You learn to just like let things go. But I mean, it's already hard enough being a housewife and keeping a fashy household on top of having to put out the kind of content that we do. And you deal with, you know, I'm not going to lie, it's challenging. You deal with a lot of hate. You get attacked by the press. People want to know where you live. They want to dox you. They want to ruin you financially. They want to come for your kids. I mean, so my situation, though, I think is it's not for every woman, and not every woman's in my situation, because Henrik and how he brought me on is kind of unusual. I don't think that happens for a lot of women. But really, I've just kind of learned to practice good time management and prioritizing. And okay, these are the days I have a show here, or I have to help Henrik with Weekend Warrior here. But then, we have to have a sitter or grandparents here while we record, because it's just too hard. Some kids could be really mellow and just hang out in their crib or play for an hour. That's not what we have.
He's just a fiery little thing from the start.
Yeah. I mean, just wild.
He's got that Viking
energy,
blood.
Curious, has to be in everything. So, I have to have someone here. So that, like right now, my parents are here helping, which is great, because I'm just so tired. I don't know if you noticed, like in my videos and stuff, I'm just tired. But sometimes
I never would have noticed. You're always so vivacious and
really?
just going for it and passionate.
I guess I'm faking it then, which is good, because you don't get a lot of sleep. You don't get a lot of sleep. You have to wake up and feed this baby every 2-3 hours, or twice a night or whatever. So my to-do lists are long. I really have to plan my days. I have to prioritize what is work, and then I also have some Lana's Llama stuff I still do, which is it's just been too much to do with everything. And then you have to make time for your family. You have to make time for kids, you have to take breaks. I have to go outside and recharge, because you know how it is, Brie, when you're giving and you're doing this all the time, you need to be fed too. So you need to go outside, and you need to take time for your family and take care of yourself. And I wish really that I could just be a housewife. And some days I wish that Henrik just had a normal job and it was just a normal chilled out life and I didn't have to worry about these things. But that's just not the times that we live in. And I don't think I would feel good about myself if I just walked away from Red Ice, walked away from these things. It was like, that's it. Because when you have kids, you worry about them and you want to fight for their future. I don't want to sit around and say I didn't do anything for them. I want to take the hits now and try and pave a good future, pave the road for our kids so that they have a good future,
That's what I try telling people. I wish we lived in peaceful times where I didn't have to do these kind of things, where I didn't feel so compelled to put my face out there and to fight in whatever small way that I can. But those aren't the kind of times we live in. We live in times where we have to be that voice, because if we don't do it, who else is going to step up? Because people will see that we step down and they'll just get scared.
Yeah. And it's also challenging as a woman, because we do get emotional. And so I've had to learn, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. Like I'm in my 30s, 40 is going to be here pretty quick before I know it, So, you learn after a while to kind of control your emotions in order to get done what needs to be done. And you need to buck up and you need to be kind of tough and take care of things. And I've had to be really strong to be able to endure the things that my husband does and be supportive of him and help him with Red Ice. And I mean, this is our life. It's not something that I could just walk away from, it's everything. But I always joke around, if someone is spying, like in our kitchen window at night, and they're like, how do these evil white supremacist neo-Nazis live, hoping to see me doing like piles in the kitchen making swastika cookies, they'll be very disappointed. It's actually very quite, feeding kids and cleaning and like all these normal things in between.
No ritual sacrifices.
No. I don't know. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I think they think we're just in our kitchens doing like kind of spells or something, and we're plotting the end of all POC or something. I don't know. It's insane.
Yeah, or like Henrik has me chained up or something when I'm not doing
chained
shows.
to the stove.
Chained to the stove.
Cook my dinner.
And I'll let you know, Henrik's actually a very good cook, I can be a Renaissance woman in certain ways, but he is also a Renaissance man. So it really works out. We get done what needs to be done. It's not like, oh, you're cooking every night and you're doing that every night, because we're both doing shows and we're both, doing other things and working together. So what needs to get done, and we both know how to pick up the slack and kind of group with each other, or someone's having an off day, I'll cook, no, you'll cook, or you'll, we're a team. We just kind of figured out we work really well together, He even helps me clean. And if people have money, get someone to clean your house for you.
Seriously, but don't hire
I am not against that.
Don't hire Juanita, though. Get one of our own, right?
Exactly. And I always say, just because we talk about traditionalism doesn't mean you can't, like, hire a sitter or a nanny to help or someone to help clean your house. Like, as long as those things get done and your family is prioritized and everyone is taken care of and happy, that's what matters, you know?
You two make an excellent team. I'm glad you're able to balance all that. I was kind of curious. Like so many other women, I was misled by feminism and liberalism, was surrounded by it in school and at university. Pretty much there was no escape, so they just got me in their clutches. Did the same thing happen to you, or were you a nationalist from a young age?
Well, I'll say, and I always joke around about this, no one is born a nationalist. We don't, like, come out of our mom, like, you know, ready to do the salute or anything. But, I know. So we can't judge people for that. Everyone has a history. Everyone has been through stuff. You know, we've all been through programming and stuff. As long as you come out, that's what matters, you know. And people can find people like us. I was never a fan of third world immigrants. I was never a fan of political correctness. Those things always rubbed me wrong. So maybe underneath I was that. I just didn't have the words for it back then, you know. But I described myself as being libertarian. I guess my parents were too socially liberal, fiscally conservative, you know. Right. And back then I did think that, hey, you can do what you want, just mind your own business, just let me do what I want to do. But that's not the times that we live in, right? The left doesn't let us do what we want to do. But I also grew up in the grunge era, you know, which was a little different. It wasn't as bad as today, like SJWs and leftism. You still had that amongst, like, Nirvana and the whole Seattle scene, and I grew up.
You got it out of your system with Nirvana, right? And Metallica, and
you know, there was mosh pits and all that, but men were still men. You know, yeah. I grew up in the Northwest where they would go out hiking and they, like, drank a beer and do guy stuff and build stuff. So I wasn't really exposed to a lot of that until I went to college in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, goodness.
I was majoring in physics and philosophy, and then I started experiencing I started experiencing what liberals were, and it's a good sign because I immediately hated them. Like that show Portlandia, it was like all those kinds of people I went to school with, and I couldn't fucking stand them, you know. But yeah, I think feminism did sneak up, and it did sneak up on me in ways without even realizing it. You know, when I was 19, I did do some modeling. I lived in LA and Seattle and different places. I traveled the world. I had said, no kids, you know, I want to be free bird. I want to live out of my suitcase. So somehow those things got in. And I think, me too. I think some of it is the influence of the women that are around us too. I think if I had different kind of women around me that were older women that were, like, instilling, like, have kids soon, or get on this path, whatever. But I always wanted to be married, though. You know, I always wanted to be married, though. But, you know, I grew up in a white town, too, so I didn't really think about race until experiencing diversity and all that. My family really was on the same page, and they're big supporters of red eye. So it didn't ever quite get me, leftism.
Good.
But, you know, I've had brushes with it, you know.
You're lucky in that sense that you were able to see on campus, like, wow, I really don't want to be a part of this crew.
And I couldn't put my finger on it, but I just knew the way they dressed, the way they sounded, the way they talked, something about their vibe just really turned me off. You know, I just couldn't stand them. Yeah, and they must have smelt the fascist on me too, because they didn't like me either. There was some things rubbing up wrong there.
You could smell each other from a safe distance, right? Yeah, even in school, I liked being feminine, and they were always saying, oh, you look so much better natural. Take off your makeup. Don't do your hair. And I'm just going, I like all that stuff. There's nothing that makes me feel better sometimes than putting on a nice red lipstick and feeling glamorous. And you want to rob that from me? I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the fact that I grew up in Portland and didn't turn out to be a liberal is quite amazing.
That
I don't know if you've ever been to Portland, Oregon.
I've heard enough. I've heard quite a bit.
That is a lefty cesspit. And it's funny, too, because it's so white there. It's so white, and they don't know how good they have it, and they're crying for diversity.
That's why they're crying for it. They don't realize. Once you get thoroughly exposed, you're just like, no, I'm checking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the area I live in right now is so mestizo heavy. There are so few white people. You're just looking around going, okay, I really want to be among my own kind now, but you can't. There's no escaping it.
There's got to be a town you can go. There's got to be somewhere, at least.
We got to start exploring. I got to explore other places, see what opportunities are afoot. I remember you saying that you're of Slavic descent. Are there any special traditions that your mother and father passed down to you from their country that you practice with your family?
Yeah, I'm actually Russian on both sides, and I have a little Polish from my dad's mom. No, not Jewish. So yeah, my great grandparents on both sides, because they were all pagan before, and then they became Russian Orthodox in Russia, and there was a dual faith for a long time. So it was Russian Orthodox with some of the pagan traditions that kind of paralleled. So someone in my family did kind of bring that into the holidays. They did have a touch of pagan understanding of the seasons. But the biggest thing that stands out to me is not so much the exact traditions that we practice, other than lots of food. Russians, lots and lots of food for everything. Lots of bread, lots of meat. No vegans, no vegetarians in Russia or my family.
Purge them.
The biggest thing that stood out was, speaking and hearing Russian, hearing the fairy tales, the sayings, stories of life in Russia and how it was and how they fled. I mean, that really stands out to me the most. And I love that. That's how we're raising our kids. My parents are actually speaking in Russian to their grandkids,
Oh, wow.
our kids. Henrik speaks Swedish, and I'm trying to do a little bit of everything. English, Swedish, Russian, but they're going to grow up. They're going to grow up Swedish.
So you're going to have a son who's bilingual. That's amazing.
Oh, of course. Of course.
And I heard somewhere that makes them smarter, too, to be bilingual from a young age.
Yeah, it's much easier when you learn at a young age. Because my grandparents only spoke Russian with me. So when I went to Babushka's house, I had to know Russian, and it stuck with me. It always stuck with me when you learn at a young age. So I want our kids to be able to have that.
Yeah, I spoke a little bit of French with my grandfather, but I lost it. Yeah.
I definitely want them to grow up in Europe, though, after a certain age. It's going to be full-time Europe, so they can get with another Swede or a Russian, hopefully.
Is it going to be Sweden, Russia? Is there any particular country you guys are really interested in?
Sweden, because that's Henrik's home.
Okay.
But, my family is actually looking into getting land in Russia again.
Oh,
Kind of exciting.
wow.
Kind of closing the circle and going back. Home,
That's amazing.
There's a lot of good things about Russia right now, and there actually are some warmer places down south too.
I've heard that. Like, everybody thinks of Russia, they think of just freezing their little butts off, but there are some nicer places further south.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice. I really want to visit Russia. The culture really intrigues me. And
so much woods too. I went in the 90s when I was a young girl with my parents, and I remember it's just when communism was ending, the Soviet Union was ending, and it was really depressing. It's like, oh my God, it's so depressing. I never want to come back again. But now it's totally different.
Have you been back?
Have to go back then. No, I need to, though. I need to go back and
Very cool.
Experience it.
People tend to really get, I think, confused about women like you and me and the alt-right. Some say the alt-right hates women, whereas people like you and me have never really felt that way. I mean, men have been my key supporters. Most of my viewers are men. Why do you think some people believe that's the case? Is it just outsiders looking in? Because I've seen a lot of other women in the movement feel that way as well.
Well, for starters, I think it's different. I'm a married woman. I'm grown. I'm secure in many ways. My life is full, so I don't feel the need to respond to a lot of this kind of woman drama, because I just feel so far reach from it, even if it is real. I'm saying with you, you're in a secure relationship. I think some of the women that might be vulnerable to some of these things might be single, maybe not in a long-term relationship. But I like to know who is who and who's saying what, and see them actually speaking, face to face, to ask them how they came to the conclusions that they're at. I mean, many who spread this claim of, the identitarian men or alt-right men hate women, they don't actually meet up with people in real life. They just, people see a few anonymous Twitter accounts trashing women, and they think that's all
representative of the
that's
whole
all
movement.
the identitarian. And it just really irritates me. Like, don't be so naive. There's plenty of people that are trying to create division because they hate our movement. Even people who claim to be on our side, who think, like, the alt-right, for instance, is controlled opposition. So for me, it turns into just a cluster. Excuse my language, but it's a clusterfuck.
It is.
When these dramas happen, it's like, okay, I could see a little bit of that. I can understand some of that, but it's just like a hornet's nest.
Yeah.
I just don't even want to go into. I simply stay out of it. No time for that. I mean, we're talking about a very tiny faction of people, mostly on Twitter and forums, who are fighting a lot, like a Thoughtgate too. It seemed like very few people knew about it. Like, most of our members are professional people and a lot of married couples, and they had no idea that any of that was going on, because they're
probably for the
busy.
best.
They're quite busy. They didn't even know. But yeah, people need to realize that there are people who make up accounts and make things up, who pretend to be on our side. They say things. They want to start division. They want women out of it. And really, when we meet up with people in real life, I've never had a problem with any men.
Me neither.
Men have always been a gentleman. They've always
Same
been supportive. They support everything that we do. So I just don't buy that. Maybe there's a couple, bitter guys here and there, but so what?
Probably MGTOWs, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not nationalists, but it doesn't support the whole movement, What one guy thinks, or what Andrew Anglin has said doesn't support all of our views or represent all of the men. And Andrew Anglin, he really just, he goes after leftist women a lot.
I've always considered him to be like a provocateur, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really who he trashes. But I find for me, and I think I've said this on my show, for me, who I get trashed by more often is actually some women.
Yes, I feel
whether
the same way.
Female journalists or women that just hate for whatever reason. There's a certain psychopath that's been stalking me for years and makes up rumors and lies and has all these sock accounts, So
oh goodness,
there's that, But on my experience, it doesn't resonate with me. This whole it's all woman hating. I mean, that's baloney. Most of the guys in the alt-right, they're fighting for a future for women and children.
Right.
And they aren't fags, okay? They're not homosexuals. They like women. They want to have sex with women. They want to marry women. They want women to be around. It's ridiculous. So I think that there's a lot of confusion and a lot of fighting stuff. But my recommendation, though, for women, when you see that kind of stuff, just don't get involved. Just don't.
You don't need the drama in your life anyway. Life's dramatic enough, right?
Don't get into these social media wars and fighting with people that you don't know who they are. And it's like my husband always says, once they come to my face and actually say something, then we can really talk. But until then, who cares? Don't have time for that kind of stuff.
I like that attitude. I've always considered politics to be very male-brained, and I've heard you say the same. And women like us, I've kind of considered us to be anomalies. I do see a few women here or there, but I don't know. Do you think that's true, that we're kind of anomalies in the situation?
Yeah, I think we talked about this a while back, but some women fake it as though they're intelligent when it comes to politics. I think that's mostly liberal women. They pretend like I'm so intelligent. And then there's women like us who really, we can see the obvious of what's happening. And I don't think that requires a super duper high IQ or even a male brain, because what we're saying is true. So the truth doesn't really require a male brain or a high IQ. We are simply highlighting the truth, and I think truth will come out in any vessel that really wants to channel that. But I'd say women like you and I interested in the truth historically, yeah, it's always been a small number of people, but I think on both sexes when it comes to, talking about the truth and wanting that. But philosophy, politics, it is more male brain, but of course I think that we do have a little bit of both in us.
Yeah.
And the political brain wasn't always there for me. It was kind of a muscle that I worked, and I think it's mostly because of my husband, because he wanted to sit around and talk about those things, and we have a show about those things, so it kind of got that going in me. But I didn't innately, naturally, just naturally have that or want that, But I think that there is also a creative aspect to philosophy and also what we do in these videos, and creativity can also be very feminine. So when you're writing scripts or thinking of how a video needs to be produced, or you want to be creative. I'm also a songwriter. I'm musical. I write. Yeah, I mean, in my other life, I was a recording artist. I licensed songs into TV shows. My brother and I wrote music and stuff. We had different successes. I did an album with the sound designer from 9 Inch Nails, for instance. So I toured and did that kind of stuff. So I've always had that more creative thing. So I try and let the creative spirit kind of come out in what I do. So trying to take these subjects in our area and compile them into an interview, a video, a talk, that's fun for me. And I think you can put a little feminine energy on that.
Yeah, and I think guys respond to that as well when they see a woman doing this, because so often when I look at political pundits on TV or on the radio, so often it is men. And when I talk to women in real life, they're kind of like, nah, I don't want to talk about that stuff. Just, I don't know. So when they hear it coming from a woman, I've heard Mark Collette call it like a hammer in a silk glove.
Yeah. It's funny, I had a philosophy teacher who used to say that, and he always told me you were a fist in a velvet glove. And I said, why, thank you, sir. Yeah, he hated me, too. He was a lefty, by the way.
I hope you caused him trouble.
I was always challenging him and stuff, and then he learned that I was 17 because I went to college early. I finished high school early and went to college, and then he called my parents to narc on me and complain on me.
He called your parents to complain
I called my
college?
parents.
They do that in college?
Because I was only 17 in this philosophy class. I was early, got in there early. And my parents stood up for me. But
Good.
Yeah, but really, I think what we do, it just requires understanding the truth, I think I've been thinking about this. It is very male brain politics, of course, but a lot of people have done the work for us, and we can see what the double standards are. So that just requires having some common sense to be able to reiterate some of those things.
And then writing down some thoughts and turning on a camera, right?
Yeah. I mean,
if you have to, don't look at the comments.
I don't think at this point, a lot's been said. It's hard to say new things, but it does happen. But it's about how you spin it, what angle you come from, how you put it together, how you can condense it. For me, one thing I want to get better at is being able to condense a lot of information in a normie-friendly, fast, simple, easy way in 3 minutes. And that's an art form.
It is, because when I look at my analytics, most people have an attention span I see of about 7 minutes. So when I realized most of my videos were like getting to be over half an hour, I was like, ugh, I need to start doing the shorter material again, because people want that quick delivery.
And at the same time, you're like, you want to improve people's attention span. You don't want to just cater to these ADD people all the time, too.
Seriously. If women want to create content and discuss politics or put their face out there in general online, what are some tips or things you think they should know beforehand?
Well, you're going to get hate. So number one, stop obsessing over comments and what people think of you. I know so many great gals in the scene, but one thing is they're always writing me for advice, and they're always worrying about the comments or what people said or how do you deal with it. And I just say, I don't read the comments. I just don't give a shit what people think. You have to learn to get a thick skin, but that takes time and that takes practice. Like I said, I'm not a spring chicken, so you're doing this a little while. You kind of learn how to do that. But know that, like we said, agitators and agent provocateurs are lingering around these topics. They do want to discourage you. Always be true to yourself and to everyone else. That's most important. And do it because you love the truth and you want to spread it. Don't do these things for attention. I hear some people say, oh, some of these girls are in it for the money. What money? There isn't really that much money.
No. Maybe
there's a couple girls who...
Maybe a few.
Who rake in some money, but generally, they'll make more money at some other job. Or marrying a rich guy. Just go marry a rich guy. Go have a bunch of babies. I'd say...
Lock it down, right?
Don't engage in any drama unless it's someone with a bigger audience. They always say, you have to hit up, not hit down, right? Like some losers in their comment section. I see people responding, doing videos about it. It's like, why waste your time with who knows who this person is? Sure, if CNN or someone bigger is taking hits at you, then defend yourself. Then you can get involved in a little bit of the drama.
Right.
I'd also say don't lose your cool publicly. I think it's hard. I could be pretty fiery. I've had to learn to, control those things publicly. You have some self-control, some composure. A lady can't just,
This is why I don't do debates. I've been invited to do debates, and I'm just like, no, I know I'll lose it. I don't have Jared Taylor kind of patience. I can't do it. I'll just be like, well, fuck you.
Well, in a debate, that could be okay.
Just be like, I think you and walk away.
You have to be wise about what you put out there on the internet, things that you say, think long term. And also don't have public wars on social media and air like dirty laundry. I don't support that. And also, this is very important. If you have a man, be sure that he's comfortable with what you're saying and doing so it doesn't negatively affect your relationship. Because, it's it can be hard for a guy when his woman is out there and saying some of these hard things. And, make sure that he's cool with it, too, and he's comfortable with it.
I've heard so many young women in the alt-light and alt-right sing your praises and say that you're made of steel because you're so tough, even though women get so much criticism from the left. I want to know how you deal with that negativity. I know you say that it took a long time and you kind of developed that over time. Is it just that you don't look at the comments, or do you just get away from it once in a while and do something completely different?
A little bit of both. I mean, now I can look at comments and it just doesn't faze me. You know, it's like, yeah, I'm grown up. I've learned lessons along the way. It takes experience. It takes practice. It takes refinement. And most of all, it takes, I think, a strong man supporting you. But of course, no one ever likes to read all this negative stuff, especially when it's lies or people say things. You naturally want to defend yourself and it affects you. But you kind of learn after a while to just kind of make it be your stepping stone and just be above it. And it takes a little bit of practice, almost like a little bit of meditation in there.
Meditate before you go online.
To learn how to just like push it down and not let it get to you. And if it does get to you, then just don't read those comments. Just don't put yourself through that, you know? So, I mean, I'm at a place though where I've taken enough beatings and had enough practice and enough refinement where I have developed a thick skin. You know, they say you develop a thick skin. You can't just put it on. It takes actually fighting and taking hits before you kind of grow that thick skin. So there's a little bit of a painful adjustment, I think. Really, I mean, but I'm in a place where I can laugh because I'm confident in who I am. I'm confident in what I'm doing. I have a strong man that supports me, so these things really don't get to me. And you know, sometimes I might see a comment. I don't Google everything about myself, and
I don't either.
Rumors and lies, and people say all this stuff that isn't true. And why waste my time, you know? And a lot of times, then you'll bring attention to these lies, and then people will think, oh, it is true, right? But every now and then, I might see some negative feedback from a leftist or something, and then sometimes, if it's not an ad hominem attack, I think, okay, I'll think of that in the future for how I can improve my approach so that I can maybe be more thorough the next time. So in case they say that, I can get them from another angle so they can't say that, you know.
File it in there for later, right?
Yeah, exactly. But most of the time it's just ad hominem attacks, like when you go on to YouTube and places like that. You know, I get the fuck you Nazi cunt so much that it's so hilarious, you know. I mean, really? That's all
It
you
gets
got?
to the
Fuck
point
you,
where it's
Nazi
like,
cunt?
that's weak. Come on, do better. Do better. Bring it.
I mean, it's just so common, really. I mean, I've heard it all now, so nothing shocks me anymore.
I was shocked one day when I just went online. I just opened up my browser, and you were right in the front, and it was an article by Vox, Meet the Female Face of White Supremacy. And I just went, Really? Really? You were so unfazed by it. I saw your live show later that week, and you're just like, yeah, look at these dweebs talking about me. Who cares what they think? I'm just like,
yeah,
I need that attitude.
I had relatives, old friends, even friends who are Democrats, like write and laugh, like everyone saw that for some reason. And then I had some old friends, like blast from the past, haven't heard from them for 15 years, and then they come out, what happened to you? How did you become a Nazi and a white supremacist? You know, even a couple old Jew friends, you know, I'm ashamed of what you've become, you know, it's funny.
And I should care why?
Yeah, I know. It's like, come on, man.
It's like, I haven't heard from you in 10 years.
And then it's people that I grew up with who they know me. I'm always a nice person. I'm generally a nice person unless you do something really wrong.
Unless you bring out the cat claws, yeah.
Yeah, then I can be a warrior and I can, you know, I can take care of business. But yeah, I mean, I've always been nice to people. I'm not a big, bad, evil white supremacist. I don't go around want to lord over black people. I mean,
that's what they think. We want to round people up.
Yeah, but I've actually got a lot of messages from people after the press last year kept trying to call me the queen bee of white supremacy. I got a lot of emails from people that were like, you know what? I read those articles and I checked out your stuff, and you actually make a lot of sense. And
Good.
You're so nice. And so it's like, hopefully, you know, more people come.
They unintentionally brought people over to our side. That can be a good thing.
I hope so. But I think it's good that when they label people like me and you like a big bad monster, because then normal people are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, normal people look at
normal women here.
People like, what? Yeah. Like, they actually see our content and they're like, I've heard people say they heard something bad about me on Twitter and then they went to my channel and they're like, she's in curls and a pearl necklace and she doesn't sound bad. What's going on here? I actually agree with some of this. Yeah.
I know, it's funny. And it's amazing how reactionary the left can be. Like, for instance, you know, the alt-right is always speaking out against cucks. You know, it's become like a dirty word, you cuck. So then what does the CNN do? They write this big article about supporting cuckoldry and how it's good for your relationship. So that's a lot of power. So we can make them do the complete opposite. So we can, like, promote just normal, healthy families and, you know, women like you and I, that, you know, good relationships between us. And then what they'll do is talk about how bad that is.
How bad it is to be happy and have a family.
Yeah, and then that makes them look like lunatics.
People go, wait, what's happening here? That cuckoldry article, I was
Oh my
actually thrilled that
God,
came out
some
because I was like,
perverts.
you played your hand, and people are going to see that and think that you're the biggest perverts. What are you advocating here? My kids saw that article. They started asking me questions. Like, it just causes an avalanche that even they don't realize. And then they see the outcry, and what do? They just double down more and make
And
it
what's
even
so
worse.
funny is like it was kind of a stereotype that we've created that was true. Like there was the Jewish sociologist, the gay man, like it was those people pushing it.
The
It's
gender
like, oh
studies
man,
professor.
oh my God,
It's like every time. I even saw this recent thing that came out, I think, making a black Joan of Arc or something, and who was pushing it? The internationalists. Every
Yeah, we know who
time.
that is. Yeah.
We know, we know. I've heard you talk so much about how lefties like to rewrite history, and we're seeing that so much right now with like movies. Like I said, they've got a black King Arthur, they've got a black Joan of Arc slowly replacing us, and I hear you talk about the way lefties portray like the suffragettes and how they were the first people to speak up for women, and we were so oppressed before that, and men kept us down before these suffragettes came along, and it was all misery. I really admire
Yes.
that you've spoken about that. Why do you think so many women have those misguided beliefs?
Well, because they're being told a lie from the get-go. They're being lied to about history, and it's being reinforced in movie programming and Marxist education. They're only thinking of this very short period in European history as opposed to the entirety of European history. Because when you look at the entirety, even pagan societies before Christianity, and even old Christianity was different. It was good with women. It was much different. Women were active in many facets of society. So it's ridiculous. They just point to this little time when
Yeah,
they say women couldn't vote or own land, and even that wasn't for nefarious reasons. They were thinking in terms of households and
voting
families. It
as like
wasn't
one
about
house, one vote type of thing, right?
yeah, it wasn't about subjugating women and stuff like that. And most women didn't want to have to worry about like the land, taking care of households, or they wanted to vote with their husbands. So there's things that were in place, laws that were in place not to hold women down, but I think in order to protect women, and society was structured differently. It thought about the household. So really, yeah, I mean, a few spinsters and Marxists and, Jewish women didn't bring equality. I mean, Western
Right.
civilization gave all those things to women, and it facilitated us. And even if they want to talk about like voting and land and the suffragettes and all that, even all of that was possible because of the men who supported it. But our men have always propelled us, and I think that they need to look at the whole entirety of European civilization, where we have actually had it the best. I've said this numerous times, but our women have been the first to go in space and drive cars and go diving and climb mountains and do it all for a reason.
Because of our
But
men, yeah.
yeah, because we're men. But the feminists, as I just talked about in my third video, though, or my last video, third wave feminism is just all about anti-whiteness. That's all it's become, and I think it's come
And they
full
admit it. You can't
full
be like a
circle.
white feminist. I saw that in your video. There's
Yeah.
no such thing as white feminism. It can't be white. And I just went, if that doesn't wake some people up, nothing will.
Yeah, it's like the first wave was, let's disrupt the household, say you need your own vote, and because a few spinsters or whatever.
Right,
It's
you cat
everything for this
ladies.
It's always for this minority. We have to change everything for this minority. So first it was that, then the second wave was like getting women out to work, getting them away from their kids. The states getting their kids, they're paying more taxes. Then the third wave comes, and it's using these white women to destroy their own white society. And now we're getting to a point where even the non-whites want to destroy those white feminists who are helping destroy white society. I mean, it's coming full circle. And that was the plan all along, is what I think. It just came up in sneaky ways. But now that third wave feminism is loud and proud, we know exactly what the plan is. And it's about warring on white people, because they're not even accepting white feminists anymore. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, go check out my video I just did on
Yes, it
white
was
feminists.
excellent. And I mean, why would you in general, I think of women back then not being able to vote and having the whole one house, one vote thing, why would you marry a man who wouldn't vote in your best interest or you wouldn't agree with politically to begin with?
Yeah, that's what I say all the time.
Yeah.
That's absurd. Why would you be with that person?
You wouldn't be able to talk about anything beyond anything going on in the household
Yeah.
if you don't have that
These
kind of agreement already.
these feminists have created this cartoon version of how they think women were treated back then and how they were oppressed. No, just because they don't want to be a housewife doesn't mean that other women don't want to be.
And that's fine. Their genes can go die off. Yeah.
Yeah, because some women view that is oppression in itself. Well, to who? Because most women don't feel that way. Most women prefer to, if they have children, to be home with them. They don't want to be working and worrying about all these things and the kid. And I mean, it's too much responsibility. You know, who wants that?
I mean, if I were in that second wave of feminism and I saw them pushing me to go out to work at the same job my fiance does, I'd be like, huh? What? Like, I don't want to do this. What? I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I imagine there were some women back then who were just like, why are you pushing this?
And the thing is, the fact is, there were women who owned land. There were women who worked. There were women who were political. Like, they're acting like there never was that ever before the suffragettes, which is a total lie. And by the way, a lot of the suffragettes were racialists too. Maybe not the Marxists, but a lot of the suffragettes, they didn't want to live with other races too. And that's something that's been coming out too now that the feminists are attacking each other over that.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Your
That's
feminist
excellent.
icon heroes turns out we're racist. Oh, you know.
Therefore, you can't really help us.
Yeah.
You don't know the history here. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I know. It's great. It's fun watching them turn on each other now.
It is fun to watch them turn on each other, and I often check lefty Twitter for some people who turned on me, who turned out to be rabid leftists, and I see them turning on each other, and I'm just kind of like, delicious. Let's just go grab the popcorn.
Finally.
Let's grab the popcorn and watch.
Oh man, it's so entertaining watching this whole white feminism, category rearing its ugly head, because now white feminism is in the same category as white supremacy, white privilege, racism, and these non-whites are complaining basically that it's all these white feminists who are voicing, talking about feminist issues, and they're only talking about it from a white privileged female perspective of a middle class woman in Western society, and now they're attacking her. Now it's not good enough that she's a feminist and still campaigning for them. No, she should spend all her time campaigning for minorities and trannies and this whole intersectional feminism, which is this bunch of freaks, and all it is anti-white. All they want is these white feminists. You can't be a real feminist anymore if you're a white feminist, unless you're like, destroy all white men and white society and don't have white kids. Maybe then you could be a real feminist in the eyes of third wave feminism. I mean, that's how bad it is. And that's great, because I think that's going to turn some of those girls off. And then we'll be here waiting for them.
We will be here waiting for them, ready to red pill them. And what are these women thinking that once they give these women of color, these POC feminists, the microphone and let them have the stage, they'll give it back to us. It's okay. We can share. We're all about equality here. You honestly think that's going to happen? That they're going to hand that microphone and that power back over to you, even in the smallest way? I mean, we'll be a minority and be completely dispossessed, and they'll still be screaming about how privileged we are.
Oh, I know. Yeah, and the thing is, like, a lot of these people of color, I say that jokingly, they're just using these white liberal feminists.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're just turning on them. And it's the best thing that could happen. It's the best thing that can happen for us and for them. To see that at the end of the day, it is all about race for these non-whites. Because a lot of these white feminists now are like, what does it matter? White liberal feminists, what does it matter that I'm white? Why do you have to keep talking about race? Why do you have to think about race? They keep saying that, yeah.
Wow.
Now it's even to the point where I played a clip in the video of Rose McGowan where she's screaming about, what does it matter that I'm white? Like, that's where it's come to, where she's even addressing and defending.
Too.
Yeah, she's even literally defending, like, how she's white now. I mean, that's how far it's going. And it's great. It's a great thing for us,
It is.
Please, non-white feminists, keep attacking those white feminists. Just turn them off all together.
Just put them... Put them on the pyre, because it'll just bring more people over to us. Just keep.
It's true, because then they'll be turned off, and then and let's face it, a lot of these girls are looking for a sisterhood.
Because women need that socialization. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not welcome in the Black sisterhood or the Latina sisterhood or the Muslim sisterhood. So maybe eventually they'll learn that there's women like us, and it's actually a true sisterhood of women who actually do have your back and care about your best interests, not people who just want to use you.
Who want you to be happy. And want you to keep your bloodline going and to find a good man who treats you well and for you to not be so stressed out and to have a comfortable life where you can watch your kids grow. Like, there are good things on the other side if you're willing to take a peek.
Yep. Exactly. So I anticipate more in the next coming years, more lefty females coming our way. I
I
think
hope so.
this whole white feminism label is great because that's going to turn women off. I think lefty insanity in itself help red pill more leftists, because I mean, it's gotten so bad even leftists are making fun of leftists, and realizing how stupid it is. It's gotten so bad that old white feminists are speaking out against some of these SJWs because it's become such a witch hunt. Just because they're straight white females who are married to white males, they're getting attacked. So, the left just can't help itself. It just goes on overdrive and they want to cannibalize their own after a certain point. And we can work with that because there'll be people who will leave. They'll leave, They'll be red-pilled by leftism.
And they'll be looking for somewhere else to join and something else that they can get into.
And they're going to want shows like yours. They're going to want
or
shows,
yours.
like to find other women that have similar voices. And that's really important, I think, for women like us to be out there for other women. Because let's face it, white women are getting hit with probably the most amount of propaganda. I would say white women, there's really a number being done on them.
They're susceptible, yeah.
So, I do have compassion, and I do have hope that some of them will come over because such a number is being done. I mean, billions of dollars are being spent on pushing propaganda on white women. So we have to be a little compassionate sometimes. I know it's hard when you see that and you're frustrated with them, but I anticipate more coming over to our side.
I really hope that's true. Whenever I see them overplay their hand like this and just take it that step too far yet again, like with the cuckoldry article, like with white feminism, like with the taking the knee at the football games, I've seen normies get red-pilled from that. So every time they overplay their hand like this, I just, oddly enough, see an influx of like my subscribers or people who find a particular video where I talked about something along those lines, which is why you and I were talking about beforehand how we need more of those shorter clips. So when they have things like that where they overplay their hand, we can just throw it out there. And maybe some of these people who are getting disillusioned with that will find that sort of thing and just get a taste of what it's like on the other side.
Yeah, it's important. I think of, when I was first coming into these things, and the videos that triggered me are little one-liners that I heard that kind of turned the spark on me, and I get emails from people all the time, lots of emails of, hey, I saw your video, or I heard this, or I happened to find red ice, and this changed my life, and this set me free, and I didn't know there was people out there who I could talk to who thought like me. So that's why it's important that we do what we do, and that's why it is important to have some other women who are like us out there, because women attract other women, and we do need those white women on our side. There's people we don't want to lose, but there's going to be a lot of people that we are going to lose, and good ones, I guess.
Yeah, we want the strong. We want the strong,
smart, strong, quality ones, and I think that there still are a lot of them on the left that will come to our side.
Speaking of lefty women, I wanted to talk about, I know there are a lot of men who are angry at lefty women for falling prey to feminism, and some are trying to win women back over to our side of the good. What can they do to help the women around them to see the fallacy of feminism and leftist ideology in general? Is it just like sending them a little video clip? What can men do to help bring women back?
Well, I think when it comes to talking to other women, it can't come from a man. It almost has to come from another woman when you're talking about women's issues. So yeah, maybe there's a few videos. Hey, honey, check this out. What do you think about this? So it doesn't actually come from the guy, but it comes from a girl in in a proper discussion where you can kind of philosophize about some of these things. But when it comes to men, and we've talked about this a lot, men have the power to turn women, because I think that the majority of women are not political. When I talk to a lot of your average girls out there and young girls, they really don't know jack about politics. They don't really know what's going on. There's so much that they're just unaware of, that a strong, confident, capable, sexy guy can really convert a woman easily, I think.
Especially if she wants to please him and wants to get to know him more. You hold more power than you think you do.
Yeah, most women want to please him. No, most women aren't these bull-headed, crazy leftist women seeking power. I don't think most women want power. I think most women want more resources, and taken care of. That's probably what your average woman actually cares about more so.
Because it does make me feel taken care of. It makes me feel good when my fiance's like, I've got dinner, it's okay. I'll get the bill and I'll take care of you. Let's do this, let's do that, and buys the groceries, and it does help you feel secure. And I think women respond to that a lot, or are willing to listen to him a lot when they have
Yeah.
that kind of security around them.
Definitely. I mean, I was open-minded to a lot of things before Henrik came. I was already a girl. I have a minor in philosophy. I was always interested in, philosophical things, metaphysical things, reading all kinds of wild things, always interested in just more and above and beyond. So when I met Henrik, I guess I was the right kind of girl for that, because then he can talk about more with
primed
me,
and
open
ready.
up more, So you have to find the right kind of girl who's kind of somewhere in the middle there. And there's lots of them, a lot more than you think. So.
There are more than you think. I get lots of emails from guys going, "Where can I find a girl like you?" And I'm thinking, there are more than you think out there. Go to a right-wing conference. And if she's not all the way there yet, get her on your team, get her on your side, and then red pill her. Start showing her little videos, or, hey, honey, let's read this book together.
Yeah, I hear from guys all the time. We have members that write me all the time that say that. Oh, I play your videos for my girlfriend, or she likes them, or she's getting into it now, or, well, that's great.
Speaking of your videos, I wanted you to have a chance to plug your content. Let my audience know where they can find you in the future.
Sure. Well, we have redicemembers.com where people go to help support us. We have a member section where we have exclusive content that we just release on that website. And the membership helps support what we do. We have a small team, so it helps take care of them. But the majority of what we do is free, and that's all available at redeyes.tv. And, of course, we have a YouTube channel. But always check the websites just in case, we're censored from other places.
YouTube's purging left and right, so be sure to check out their amazing website.
Yeah, it's amazing people don't go to websites anymore. They're just going to YouTubes and Twitters and Facebooks.
It's unreal. I've had to build my own website because of that, because I'm just watching people all over the place get censored, but I'm rooting for you guys to stay on board because you really were instrumental in my red pilling process, particularly your historical revision stuff, which has been flagged on YouTube. You got to go to the website to find it now, but it was
something you can't talk about.
Yeah, there's things you can't touch because wrong think. We're all evil wrong thinkers. But I encourage everybody to go to the website. They have everything archived there if you can't find it on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me, Lana.
Yeah, my pleasure.
You can find a video version of this podcast up at 27crowsradio.com, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.